I will start formally. Hello and welcome to Create the Life and Love That You Want in 2019. My name is Katherine Baldwin, and some of you will know me already. Some of you might have done some of my work, some of my retreats, some of my workshops. You might have read my book, How to Fall in Love. But just a little bit about me. I am a coach, a transformational coach, the author of How to Fall in Love, a 10-step journey to the heart. And I run retreats and workshops and courses, and my passion and my mission is to help others love themselves, love their lives, and find love and stay in love. And I do this work because of my own experience, because of my own journey, and I was talking about that over the course of this workshop. So the first thing I wanted to say is just how this is going to work. We have an hour. I will finish 10 to 15 minutes before the end for questions. You are perfectly welcome to ask questions at any point. You can type them in the chat box. You can chat just to me, or you can send the message to everybody. So feel free to use that. I will stop every now and again to see if there are any questions, and then there will be time at the end. Obviously, if you're watching this on catch up, then you can't ask questions. You will also be able to speak at the end. You can unmute yourself and ask a question. And if you would like to do that and would like to remain anonymous for the recording, I will switch the recording off. So we'll start with the questions that are in the chat box. But for now, I will carry on with the workshop. And if there are any problems at any moment, if you can't hear me, if you don't understand anything, please just put a note in the chat box. So I would like to begin with a short grounding, centering, arriving meditation. Many of you will be familiar with meditation, some of you won't. For me, it's a way to still my mind, still my beating heart, which when I lead webinars like this beats a little bit faster. It's a way to connect to my feelings and really feel how I am feeling. So if you could join me for a moment and close your eyes and take 3 really deep breaths. You will hear me breathe. See if you can hear yourself breathing as well. Notice as your shoulders drop. Allow yourself to relax. If you're sitting, sink into the chair. Let your body sink down and relax. If you're standing, connect to the ground. Feel that connection running all the way through your body into the ground. So I'd like you to, as you continue breathing, to place your hand on your heart. And as you do so, I'd like you to connect to any feelings that are there inside your heart. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? How am I feeling? You might like to move your hand to your chest or to your tummy. We're all unique, and we feel our feelings in different places of our body. So see what works for you. How am I feeling? When I do this exercise, I encourage people to go deeper, to go beneath the initial top layer of feelings. For example, on the top layer, I am feeling adrenalized, excited, anxious, nervous. But beneath that, if I go deeper, I feel some sadness. I feel some loss. I feel some grief. So see what happens when you look deeper. Look within. So take 5 deep breaths now. Feel your shoulders drop as you breathe out. Fill up your lungs on the in-breath. Release. Let go on the out-breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay. So in the next few moments, I'd like you to acknowledge the feelings that came up in that short meditation. If you have a piece of paper, you could write them down. If you'd like to share them in the chat box, please do so, to me or to everybody. So just acknowledge the feelings that came up in that meditation. As I mentioned, my top layer was adrenaline, anxiety, excitement, nervousness, some fear. And then beneath some sadness, I have some issues going on with my family. My mum is unwell. There's some deep sadness and deep loss. And what happens to me is that the surface level feelings, the busyness, the adrenaline, the nervousness, the fear, they serve to mask the deeper feelings, but the deeper feelings are there and they are sabotaging my life. They are, they're coming out sideways. They're making me want to overeat. As some of you know, I used to overeat. I had an eating disorder, binge eating disorder for many years. So yeah, that's what happens. My feelings mask the deeper feelings, and it's really important to get to the deeper feelings. I'm just going to read a very short thing from my book. If anyone would like to share feelings in the chat, please do. This is from chapter 1 of How to Fall in Love. Step inside love, sang my fellow Liverpudlian Cilla Black in 1968. I invite you to do the same. I invite you to slow down, sit quietly, look inside, and connect to yourself on a deep level. This is where our journey to love begins. This is where our journey to creating a life that we love begins. Stepping inside. So this is a workshop about creating the life and love that you want in 2019. And I believe that stepping inside as often as possible, connecting with our feelings, is the most important thing to do on that journey to creating the life and love that we want for ourselves. So if you know anything about me, if you've read my book, you will know that stepping inside, sitting still, meditating, all those things I found, well, I didn't even consider them for the first few decades of my life. I was too busy running and stressing and working and binge eating and binge drinking and sleeping with unavailable men and having dysfunctional relationships and getting into dangerous scrapes, traveling around the world, living abroad. Some of it was fun, and some of it was self-harming. So I didn't really know how to sit still, how to feel my feelings, and how to meditate. And I have learned that in the past 15 years. I've been on my own journey of personal development, of self-discovery. I have been healing. I have been understanding myself, what drives me. And I am still transforming. I am still changing. I am still on my journey. But I have learned a lot in the past 15 years about how to connect to myself, how to connect to my feelings, and how to, how to really stay in touch with myself. It doesn't come easy to me. I'm naturally an anxious person. I'm naturally someone who runs around like crazy. I'm naturally someone who would want to avoid her feelings because in my past, I felt that my feelings were too painful to feel. So I always say, and I wrote in my book, that it is the women and men who need to meditate the most, who need to sit still the most. They are the ones who find it the hardest. And many of my coaching clients really struggle with this sitting still, but I entirely recommend some form of stepping inside practice to get in touch with the feelings and with your intuition so that you can create the life and love that you truly want. So I am here as your workshop host, but the good news is that you have your answers. You have your answers deep inside. You have your answers deep inside. You know what kind of life you want to create for yourself. And importantly, you know that the obstacles, that the difficulties, the challenges, you know why you struggle with taking certain actions. So you may have already noticed from this workshop that I like to go deep. We are looking at intention setting, goal setting, but really, I think the most important thing is to understand what blocks us from achieving our goals, what gets in our way, what are we afraid of, why do we struggle. I believe that is the most important part of this work, and we'll be coming onto that. So this workshop has two segments in the title: create the life that you want and create the love that you want. So they're both there because I believe that they are interconnected, that they are, if we don't have one, it's difficult to have the other. I know that from experience. So for all the years that I wasn't living the life that was true to me, that was authentic to me, that I wasn't pursuing my true passions, that I wasn't feeling free, for all those years, I struggled to find love. I struggled to date healthy men. I struggled to prioritize relationships. I didn't make time to explore my fear of intimacy and my fear of commitment. I was also dating in the wrong pool. So I used to work as a political journalist for the news agency Reuters. I was based in Parliament. I traveled with the Prime Minister. I mixed with ministers and VIPs. Sounds very glamorous, and in some ways it was. At the same time, I was binge eating, I was over exercising, I was overworking because I was soul dead in my career in the last few years. I didn't want to do it anymore. It wasn't me anymore. It wasn't authentic. It wasn't aligned to my true self. And the only way I could get through that job was by self-harming with food, with alcohol, with dodgy relationships. So I was dating in the wrong pool. I was looking around in the world of journalism and news reporting and war reporting and looking for some crazy photographer who was going to sweep me off my feet. And one of them did, or two of them did, but they didn't last. And really, I was dating in the wrong pool. I wasn't aligned to my authentic self, so I wasn't looking in the right places for the right guys. And so once I had quit that job, actually once I got signed off and burnt out and broke down and eventually found the courage to leave, I was very blessed with a voluntary redundancy offer, which I took. And once I started to work out, who am I? Who am I? Who do I want to be? Once I started to work that out, I started to date in a different arena, in a different place. So I started to get in touch with my love of exercise and the outdoors, and I really started to get in touch with with the people who were more suited to my authentic self. So that's when I met my partner, when I was in the outdoors cycling in Cornwall. So this is to explain why those two aspects are so connected. Now, some of you might already be in a relationship, you might be in love, but a lot of the women who come to work with me are single or in the beginnings of a relationship, unsure about relationships. Even if you are in a relationship, I believe that this work is really relevant. Maybe you're here because you want to create a different life or career for yourself. If I get distracted every now and then, it's because the screen changes when somebody joins the meeting. So I'm sorry about that. So let me now invite you to start to connect to some of your intentions for 2019. So I am going to lead another short meditation. I'm just going to ask somebody just to say hello in the box to check in and to make sure that you're all hearing me. And if somebody would mind saying hello, that would be amazing. So I'm going to lead in a short meditation. Now, if you joined my workshop last year, great, you're there. If you joined my workshop last year, you will have done a similar meditation. I ran a similar workshop last year, but I really loved it, and I think that the people who heard it did also. So I am going to share the similar one with you. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you a picture. So this picture is going to help us on our meditation. So I'd just like to check also that you have a pen, some paper, some pencils by your side, because at the end of this meditation, I'm going to ask you to do some writing. So please sit comfortably and close your eyes once you've gathered your pen and paper for afterwards. And let's return to the state that we began this workshop, connecting to our breath, sitting still. Taking a deep breath. Just going to take a drink of water. I have this terrible habit of getting a tickly cough when I'm doing these webinars. So please, close your eyes, take some deep breaths. Hopefully you took a look at the picture on the screen. If you didn't, maybe just open your eyes for a moment and take a look at that image. We're going to go on a walk through this forest. So take a look. There are leaves on the floor. There is frost. There's some beautiful trees. There's a pathway. And if you're not seeing a screen, then just imagine a pathway with trees either side. And you're walking through a forest, and there's frost on the ground, and there are leaves. So close your eyes now and imagine that you're walking along that pathway, walking along the pathway with those leaves and underneath you and twigs making a sound, and there's trees either side. And as you walk forwards, you look all around you, you take in the colours, you take in the smells and the sounds. And as you walk through the forest, looking at the trees on either side, you notice that the trees become more sparse. There's less frost on the ground. And as you walk through the forest, you open up into a clearing. So imagine a clearing with patch of grass, big patch of grass, expanse of space, trees on the outskirts. But imagine all this space around you. This space is your blank canvas. This space is your 2019. So as you enter into the middle of the space, I'd like you to sit down on the grass. You have a rug, so it's nice and comfortable. And I'd like you to take out, you have a backpack and you have a pen and a notebook, and I'd like you to take those out. And I'd like you to write. I'd like you to write about your best 2019. What does it bring? What does your best 2019 look like? We are all different, so you will have different, unique goals. Some might be around love, might be around career, might be around health or self-care, might be around family, creativity. So just see what comes up for you. You might want to put your hand on your heart again. What does your heart want for 2019? What does your heart long for? So imagine you're still sitting there, and I'd like you to take a few deep breaths. And then open your eyes. And take your pencil, paper, And write down anything that came up for you. Any goals, any intentions. I much prefer this idea of intentions. I much prefer this idea of intentions to resolutions or to goals. So please write anything that comes up for you. If you'd like to share any of your thoughts in the chat box, please do. You can do that to me privately, or you can do that to everyone. So I like to use an exercise like this to get in touch with our heartfelt goals. Because I am very good at living inside my head. I am very good at detaching from my feelings and from my heart, from my real heartfelt intentions. I'm very good at detaching from my intuition. But what is really important for me as a creative person, as a woman, is to connect to my deep, heartfelt intentions. So, yeah, would anyone like to share anything in the chat box? Please do. Just to let you know that I've muted you all, and if you do unmute yourselves, please be aware and mute yourself again, because there might be some background noise for the other participants. So I wonder if you came up with any heartfelt intentions. There are a number of ways to set our intentions or to set our goals for the new year. So I really like doing a meditation like that, and I would encourage you either to listen back to this or to find something else, find another meditation on YouTube, or to sit still or use a mindfulness app. And before you start scribbling your goals and your intentions, to really get in touch with your true self, with your heart, with your soul, with your spirit. Thank you, Martha, for sharing. Lovely intentions to be with your aging Labrador, to work with animals, to find connections with others, spend time in nature. So heartfelt intentions are really important. And I believe that they are the first level of intentions that we set. We can set more specific ones, and I'm going to come on to that, such as, for me, I'd like to publish another book. I would like to get my video courses going. A lot of my intentions involve my business, because I'm a bit of a workaholic. But we can get more specific, but the heartfelt things, what does our soul yearn for? That is really important. So I have done a number of similar, when I've done a meditation like this, I often get a big piece of paper and I'll write out my intentions. So hopefully you can see this. And these are sort of the big picture intentions. I wrote this, it might be a bit back to front for some of you. I wrote this before I left London 3 years ago. Freedom. I wanted to feel free. I wanted sun, travel, sex, love, joy. I wanted to dance, climb, drive, swim, hike, bike, smile, camp, peace and abundance. I wanted all those things. And in a large part, I've got a lot of those. And I live by the sea, and I am engaged, getting married in June. Peace of mind is the one that I still struggle with, but the more I meditate and the more I connect to myself, the better that is. We camp a lot, I swim in the sea a lot, I hike and I bike. So these big picture intentions are great. I also wrote something a while ago for my business. So big picture, I coach, I inspire, I write. I help others to be happy, joyous and free, community, belonging. They were my big picture intentions. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with vision boards. So we don't have time to do that on this workshop. It's something I love to do on my retreats. And it's something that you might have done yourself. But here's one I prepared earlier. So grab some women's magazines, glossy magazines, and cut out the words that speak to you. Mine often involve nature, creativity, being free, being by the sea, writing, and here's another one that I did two at the same time. There's some dreams on there. Camper van, I would love one of those. To be more supple and flexible and stretch, and to cycle more and be outdoors. And I still haven't got a dog. That's still on that intention. So setting big picture intentions. There's another thing that's really useful that you could do in your own time, which is the Wheel of Life. So if you look up Wheel of Life, you can see on Google, you will see a lot of different models of it. There's a really good one in Psychology's magazine in the February issue, which is now out. And we come up with different segments for our life. So home, family, money, adventure, or choose the ones that speak to you, relationships, well-being, friends, work. And then we put colors into them, and then we see where we are, whether we're at 1 or at 10, and we choose some actions to get towards those goals. So that's what I'd like to suggest that you do now. So with the intentions that you have set, with the things that you have written or thought about at the end of that meditation, I would like you to think of 3 things that you could do in the next month to make those things happen or to move closer to those dreams. Now, these don't have to be big actions. They can be small actions. They could be to meditate every day. They could be to walk outdoors for half an hour every day. They could be, if you would like to find love this year, you could make an intention to redo your online profile or to join another social activity where you might meet more people. If you are, if you'd like to change your career, maybe you could go to a careers day, ask if you could shadow someone, go to an event. I've got a workshop in London in a few weeks, which is relevant to that. So think about small steps. And, you know, I had some big dreams a few years ago to write a book, to fall in love, to move to the sea, to move to the beach. And just taking that last one, I wanted to move out of London where I'd lived for 13 years and I wanted to live by the sea. That was quite a big deal for me because I was very fearful of a big change like that. But I took small steps that took me in the right direction. So I came down here. I live in Poole in Dorset. I came to visit. I had friends here. I stayed overnight. I then did a week dog sitting in a friend's house. And I had a whole week here. I borrowed her car. I borrowed her dog. I did a week cat sitting in another house. And then I eventually realized that I was happy when I was here. So it's often about going somewhere and connecting to how we feel when we are there. So think about the small steps that you can take in order to meet some of those intentions. In terms of love, for me, that was a huge thing that I wanted to happen in my life. I had to go on a massive journey in order to make that happen, which is all in my book. And I have courses that speak of the same journey. I had to learn to love myself first. And that sounds like a cliche, and maybe it is, but it's so true. I had to love myself. I had to understand my patterns in relationships, and I had to take action to change those patterns. I had to get a lot of support from coaching, from therapy, from people walking a similar journey, from support groups, and I managed to love myself enough. I managed to change my patterns, and I managed to fall in love. So if that is one of your intentions, what could your small steps be? They could be to read my book, to come on one of my retreats. They could be to explore somebody else who does this kind of work. They could be to maybe as simple as making a phone call, updating your profile. What are the small steps that you could take? And if you want to write a book, which is one of my ambitions, a little bit every day is a wonderful way to proceed. So I hope by now, while I've been talking, that you have come up with a few actions, a few achievable actions that you are able to take in the coming month, or you set your own time frame. But what is important is to set a manageable time frame, is to choose manageable actions that are specific, that have that you can say that I have taken that action. And the other important thing is to get support, to have an accountability buddy. So who could you ask to be your accountability buddy, your change partner? Who could you ask to support you on that journey? You could look for coaching, counseling. I have my free Facebook group, Being Real, Becoming Whole. Or you could join my membership community. I'll speak about that later. Or there's lots of other resources out there on Facebook, on the internet. So how can you get support? Because I know what it's like trying to do things in isolation, and it's not good for me, and it doesn't work. So we really do need to be accountable to somebody. It really does help. For me, investing in therapy, investing in coaching, I put that before most other things apart from food and shelter. For me, it is vital. And no matter where my income is, I always make sure that I invest in myself because I am worth it. So I hope you've come up with a few actions. Please feel free to share them in the chat box. And now we need to work out why it is so difficult for some of us to take care of ourselves, to show up for ourselves, to complete the actions that we have promised that we are going to do. And if this is you, you are not alone. I find it really difficult to follow through sometimes. I find it difficult to Sorry, I pressed the mute when I coughed, and I pressed the mute. Great. So I was saying that if you find it difficult to connect, if you find it difficult to value and cherish yourself enough to meet your intentions, to take your steps, to take the actions, then you're not alone. I have found it difficult to follow through. I found it difficult to love myself enough to take those actions. I found it difficult to be disciplined around my time and my energy. So one thing that really helped me is when I understood that I treat myself in the way that I was treated as a child. So sometimes we treat ourselves how we were treated. So I don't blame anyone. I don't blame my parents. They did their best with the resources they had at their disposal and with what they knew. They did their best. However, at times they treated me ambivalently. So sometimes I felt loved, sometimes I felt ignored, sometimes I felt cared for, sometimes I felt neglected. And I have internalized that process, and I can treat myself in the same way. So sometimes I'm great and I love myself and I care for myself and I take my actions and it's all going really well. And sometimes I abandon myself. Sometimes I abandon myself. So if you are prone to abandoning yourself, to neglecting yourself, see if it helps you to understand that sometimes we treat ourselves how we were treated. If we were treated ambivalently, then we might treat ourselves ambivalently. So knowing that, I find, is really helpful. It is empowering to know that, because I can think, okay, how can I change that? We can't change what we don't acknowledge. We can't change what we don't acknowledge. So acknowledging that is so important. So what happens to us when we struggle to achieve our goals? What comes up? Well, often what comes up is fear. So I imagine that some of you will relate to that idea of fear. Fear, self-sabotage, what are people going to think of me? What if I make a mistake? What if I get it wrong? But it is really sad, I believe, when we allow fear to rule our lives. When we allow fear to rule our lives. I'm going to read something from towards the end of my book, and it's from the final chapter, which is called Make Bold Choices. I meet too many women and men who desperately want to make a bold choice, who want to change their lives, leave their jobs, move out of the city to the seaside, or move from the countryside back to town. I meet people who are tired of dancing to someone else's tune or of paying the price of being too nice. I meet women who take their tears to work, who feel their soul go to sleep as they switch on their computers, and who bury their lostness in bottles of wine at night. I meet people with wonderful dreams and amazing ambitions for their lives who don't have the courage yet to stand up for themselves and to fight for what they really want. I know what it feels like. Believe me, I do. I have been there. But life is short. You know that. So don't wait until you have a health scare or a breakdown or the light inside you goes out to change your life. Please promise me you won't. Promise yourself. Make a bold choice, or if it feels more manageable, take baby steps in preparation for change. Research new careers, spend a weekend in that seaside town you'd like to move to, take a month off work, get your flat valued, or see how much money you've got saved. If it feels scary, understand that it's meant to feel like that. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable when you reach for your dreams after years of neglecting them. Embrace the discomfort and walk through the fear. Take Mark Twain's advice. Sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. Now, I won't be the first person who has encouraged you to walk through your fears. Susan Jeffers wrote it many, many years ago, feel the fear and do it anyway. I won't be the first person to share that Mark Twain quote with you. The thing is, fear is, it's one of those things. I'm just going to share my screen again because I've got a picture. Fear is one of those things that gets all of us. So how can we walk through it? How can we walk through it? Well, as I said earlier, by not doing it on our own, by finding someone, and that doesn't have to be somebody that you pay for. That can be a buddy, a friend, somebody in a group who you can be accountable to, who you can share with. And believe me, I have a huge network of people who I share my fears with, and it's incredibly helpful. We can also find our courage from inside ourselves, but also from something greater than ourselves. So this quote, fear and faith have something in common. They both ask us to believe in something we cannot see. So fear, you might have heard this expression, false evidence appearing real. We are afraid of the things that haven't happened yet. We are afraid of the things that we can imagine. So I often have to be really mindful of the fact that my imagination has run wild and I have to stop it and bring it back to reality. Has that thing happened yet? Why am I worrying? is there anything I can do to offset the worry? And then find some faith. So faith doesn't have to be religious faith, but it can be faith in something greater than yourself, and that can be God, or that can be the universe, that can be nature, that can be the sea. So as you know, I swim in the sea when I can, and that just gives me so much strength and so much courage. So it lifts me up, and I feel so connected to something greater than myself. And the same when I walk in nature, when I hug the tree, it's rooted, it's grounded. These big solid trees, they've been around a lot longer than us, and they've been around, and they'll continue after we have gone. So faith asks us to believe in something we cannot see, and fear does the same. So let's choose the faith. I was watching back the webinar that I ran this time last year, and I was mentioning that a friend of mine was very ill, and that friend died in January of this year. So just about a week after I'd finished the webinar. She was in her early 50s, and shortly after that, another friend died who was in her late 40s. This was a huge shock and a huge sadness, and I know how difficult it is to take those events and apply them to our lives, as in to take courage from knowing that our life is short. And I know how difficult that is, because when my friend died, I thought, right, that's it, everything, I'm going to get a dog, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to live in honor of her. Which I feel really moved as I say that, because living in honor of my friend who has died, my other friend who died, of the people that you have lost, how can we live in honor of those people? How can we honor them with the way that we live our lives? How can we live courageously? How can we live courageously? So I'd love to I'd love to encourage you to walk through your fears. So that idea of having something greater than yourself. So meditation connects me both to myself and to something greater than myself. Walking on the beach, swimming in the sea, being out in nature, even sharing with other people, because I believe that they speak a deeper truth. So I learn from others. And that builds up my faith. So how can you build up your faith so that you don't live in fear? So is there anything, if there's anything you'd like to share about some actions that you can take to build up your faith, and to move through your fear, Again, getting support is really helpful for that. But you have the resources inside yourself. You are a courageous woman. You are courageous women. I am courageous. And, just take heart from my experience. So these webinars never go perfectly. I press the mute button and it goes quiet. I don't like technology. I have no idea if this is making a difference to anyone. I run my retreats. I ran my first retreat without ever running a retreat before. I learned a lot. I made some mistakes. So we step out. We step out in faith. This year I'm running foreign retreats. I've never run foreign retreats before, in Spain and Turkey. And I step out. I step out because I don't feel like I've got another choice, actually, because I know what the alternative is. I have been soul dead. I have been depressed. I have been on my knees by my bed saying, God, what's the point? What's the point of my life? I have felt that there wasn't a point to my life. I have been there and I don't want to go back there. So I feel like I haven't got a choice other than face my fears, step out. But I don't do that blindly. I do that with support. I do that with resources. I do that with others. I do that by getting help. So have a think about how you can step out of your comfort zone and get some support. I'm going to open up for questions any moment. I'm just going to, I dedicated the second edition of How to Fall in Love to my friend who died. Yeah, I just want to mention, well, I just want to read the final paragraph. It's very short. We have no idea when our time will be up, so let's live courageously and love courageously for our own sakes and in memory of those who no longer have the chance. So let's live courageously for our own sakes in memory of those who no longer have the chance. So there's only so much I can fit into this short webinar. I have lots of other resources and opportunities. If you would like a relationship, if you would like to fall in love, if you would like something that is more than my book, I have a course online that is self-study that is available now. I have a course starting later in January. I have my retreats in which I talk about how to love ourselves, change our patterns, broaden our horizons, create lives that we love. So there are lots of other resources. Another thing that often happens at the beginning of the new year, and I've posted a bit about this on social media, is that desire to lose weight, to get thin, to exercise, and there's nothing wrong with, I absolutely adore exercise and I love being a healthy weight. But I know this is a time of year when people look to diets. And I know from experience that dieting doesn't work. So I also have resources on how to stop emotional overeating, including a workshop and a half an hour video, which you can all find on my website. And I'll give you details in a moment. So there are lots of resources out there, both from me and from other people, to help you to achieve your goals, to set loving intentions and to work towards them. And the most important, a important thing is to celebrate our successes. And I wonder if you're any good at that. It's not my strong point. I am one of those people who gets there and then thinks, how do I get there? So I'm always looking for the next thing. But it is really important to acknowledge and encourage ourselves. And, you know, I talk a lot in my work, in my coaching, about reparenting the inner child. Reparenting the inner child who might have been treated ambivalently, who might be afraid, who might be worried about being told off. So reparenting our inner child. And one of the ways we do that is we acknowledge our successes and we celebrate our successes. And we also forgive ourselves when things don't go quite to plan. And we love ourselves through it. And we laugh about it if we can. So I'm going to open for questions in a moment. I'm just going to wrap up with some final resources. So I'm going to share my screen. And so I do have a free Facebook group. Some of you might be in it. It's called Being Real, Becoming Whole. I will send around the slides with the recording, so you don't need to scribble down the link. If you are looking to be in a relationship, I have something called the Love Ladies Community. It's a very small group right now of women who are dating and looking to be in a relationship, and I coach them through that. And it's £20 a month through January, and then the price goes up. And I have loads of events coming up. So you go to howtofallinlove.co.uk and click on events for all my upcoming events. But I have a workshop in London, Relight Your Fire, on January the 15th, and one on Stop Emotional Overeating and Lose Weight for Life on the 16th. I have a yoga and personal development day in conjunction with a yoga teacher here in Bournemouth. There are only 9 spaces left on that. That's February the 2nd. I have a new 6-week love course starting on January the 28th, small group, and the self-study course. And then I have 3 absolutely amazing retreats. I only have 2 spaces left on my Dorset retreat, which is February the 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, so perfect timing. How to Fall in Love. I have a non-residential space and a twin room space left. I have my wonderful retreat in Spain, in Andalusia in May, and in Turkey in October. So they both, the Turkey and Spain retreat, have early bird prices. So The Spain runs out in mid-February, the early bird, and the Turkey runs out at the end of January. So do take advantage of those. And my book is available on Amazon. So I would love to, I'm going to stop the share now. I'm going to send these slides around so you can see them again, and see if anyone has any questions. Now you can do that by typing in the chat box. So if you'd like to tell me if you'd like to chat a question first, and if you'd like to speak one, I am happy to end the recording, or I can edit the recording and cut it off if you'd like to speak anonymously. So are there any questions? Okay, thank you, Martha. So thank you that you enjoyed the workshop. Nebulous intentions, like work with animals and spend time in nature. Can you offer any advice on how to break this down into manageable actions and steps? So great question. So work with animals. I'm thinking, how would you like to work with animals? Thinking really practically. Would you like to work once a week with animals? Would you like to completely change your career to work with animals? So how can you explore that in small, manageable steps? I know that near me, there is a dog rescue center where you can go for one day. I think it's called the Margaret something Dog Rescue Center here in Dorset. You can go for one day as a volunteer. So I really advocate just trying things out like that. So trying out where can you volunteer for a day? Maybe there's a cat rescue center, or maybe there are other animals that you're interested in. I have a friend who is a dog walker. In fact, she started her business after coming on my How to Fall in Love retreat. So the retreat has different results, and she has a dog walking business. Now, if I was interested in working with animals or doing something similar, I would ask her if I could shadow her for a day. Can I come along? Or for 2 days or for a week? Can I come along and try it out? If it's a bigger intention around a career with animals, maybe you could answer, Martha, and be a bit more specific whether it's a career or whether it's a more of a hobby thing. But if it's a career, I would see what careers are available, what qualifications are needed. And again, I would test the waters. I really believe in testing the waters and trying it out. In terms of spending time in nature, yeah, that's one of my big nebulous goals as well. And I was talking to a buddy yesterday, one of my intention setting buddies, and I was talking about, one of my intentions is to swim in the sea. So how often do I want to do that? What is manageable? Is twice a week manageable for me? And do I pick specific days? I know when I was in London, I had a real desire to spend more time in the outdoors, into the countryside. And I joined two hiking groups in London, and they were really great for meeting people, for meeting potential dates, actually, and for getting outdoors. So, for example, and I have a coaching client who has a similar goal. So I have suggested that she explores a walking group. And also then the thing is, I will explore a walking group and I will go on one walk with that group by the end of the month, and I will try that out. Or maybe it's a 20-minute walk every day, or maybe it's a park run every Saturday. So what is manageable to you and what feels right, and experiment and try that out. And if that's helpful, Martha, I hope it is. If you have a follow-up question, please ask it. And yeah, I'm not sure how else to answer that. Please, if you have any other questions, anyone else, please type them, or unmute yourself and you could speak them. And I just wanted to add that I do offer one-to-one coaching via video call like this, and also my beach brainstorming sessions, where I invite you down here for a whole day or half day of coaching, dedicated one-to-one coaching, which includes a walk on the beach. So do check those out. They're all on my howtofallinlove.co.uk website. Any other questions? How would you try out doing a retreat without actually doing the thing? Do you mean running a retreat, Lauren? Hosting one? Yes. So I would begin with a day. So I would begin with a day workshop. So for example, the workshop I have in February the 2nd here in Bournemouth. Now, I've already run my retreats. So I know I can run a retreat, but I wanted to do something with this yoga teacher who I'm hosting my Turkey holiday with. And that's a really low cost to me, low risk. So I would find a lovely room. The hotel I'm using in Bournemouth has a really good value room, and I would begin by running a day. Now, you might have already done that, and if you have, please say I've already done that, because I don't want to, I don't want to assume that you haven't. I think I would have made sure that I'd gone on a few retreats, which I definitely had by the time I ran mine. So I had been on retreats in Greece, you've run a 2-hour workshop that you wrote yourself. So I would extend that to a one day workshop that includes, from 10 till 4, 10 till 4:30, or our February one is 10 till 4:30. I would get used to, do you provide lunch? How does that work? And so I would write the content for that, and I would do that and find a low-cost venue so that the risk to you isn't too high. The other thing you could do is to invite friends, trusted friends, to, if you're not ready to run a full day yourself, for clients, you could invite friends along and see if you can sort of use some guinea pigs, or you could do it really low cost. And so the idea is to ease yourself into these new steps and new actions without causing too much stress to yourself or too much anxiety, and without there being too much margin for things to go wrong with my retreat. And I suppose the other thing is to trust yourself and trust your heart, and trust what your heart is telling you. So I had an idea to run a retreat, and my dear friend who passed away introduced me to somebody who ran a bed and breakfast. I went there, I had a look, and I thought, yes, this is my venue. I am doing my retreat here. Okay, so your heart is yelling you to do this work. So that is great. So I would go and explore venues, and I would, as I did, and I just chose the date, and I said, right, I'm running it. My first retreat I ran in November by the beach. I didn't think anyone would come. I sold out. I made a little bit of money. I didn't make a loss. And I learned a lot, and it went well. So I would trust yourself. If your heart is yelling at you, then feel the fear and do it anyway. Find some support, find an accountability buddy, share it in my free Facebook group that this is what you're going to do by this time, and do it. And as I was saying, I would make sure that I'd been on a retreat before, or been on some day workshops before I've done one. I did all that before I ran mine. So I went on retreat in Greece and one in France, ran by a friend of mine. So I really got in touch with her and her feedback, and what had worked for her and what hadn't. You're also you're very welcome to ask me what works and what doesn't. Yeah. Great. So you've done that too. But if you want to ask me what works and what doesn't, please do. On another occasion, you can drop me an email or whatever. Yeah. Any other questions? I'll just be here for a few more minutes. I realize that we've just gone over 2:00. So and I'll just finish on fear. Please ask a question if you have one. But on the idea of fear, the excitement is the flip side to fear. So take a look at my face. Like, I am excited. I'm adrenalized. I've also felt fear. And so they're very closely aligned, this fear and this excitement. So when you feel the fear, just try and flip it into the excitement, because we come alive, we shine. Hopefully I'm shining and not because of the lights. we glow, and that is our gift to the world. We all have wonderful gifts that we can give to the world. And if we hide our gifts, then nobody benefits. We feel depressed, we feel resentful, we feel sad because we're not doing what we're called to do. Whereas if we let our light out, then everybody benefits. We benefit and everybody else does. And when I'm struggling with my fear, I remember that the beautiful paintings that I love, the works of art that I love, the music that I love, the books that I love reading, I wouldn't have any of those. I wouldn't benefit from any of those if those authors and artists and musicians and actors had listened to their fear. Because I guarantee you that they were all afraid, because they're creative people and we tend to have a lot of fear. So they were all afraid. And if they hadn't followed through and got through their fear, then I wouldn't have those books. And if I hadn't gone through mine, you wouldn't have my book. And I've had some amazing, wonderful feedback on my book. So remember, fear, excitement, very closely aligned. Just flip into the excitement and go for it. That's so great, Gemma. Thank you for posting that you feel inspired to get motivated. And yeah, the retreat changed your thinking, and this workshop has helped you to focus. So thank you for posting that. Yeah, it would be amazing if any of you would like to join me on the London workshops, on my retreats. I'm very excited about Spain and Turkey, and I would love you to come away with me. So do get in touch. My email is Katherine@katherinebaldwin.com. So unless there are any more questions, I am going to wrap up. So I'll just leave this open for 2 minutes and then I'll say goodbye. You will all receive the recording and the slides. Thank you. Happy New Year. Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone.